The fluorescent hum of the HMS Phorcys was usually a comforting drone, a mechanical heartbeat in the crushing silence of the deep. But lately, it felt thin, almost fragile against the backdrop of the unsettling news trickling down from the surface. Tightening borders, saber-rattling rhetoric, a cold current of anxiety had seeped into the submarine's recycled air. Sonar, anything. Captain Davies' voice was a low rumble, barely audible above the hum. His gaze, usually sharp, held a flicker of weariness. Chief Petty Officer Hayes, his face perpetually illuminated by the ghostly glow of the sonar screens, shook his head. "Standard echoes, sir. Whale song, distant shipping. Nothing out of the ordinary." Yet, his fingers danced restlessly across the controls, a subtle tremor betraying his unease. Hours dissolved into the monotonous rhythm of routine checks and hushed conversations. They cruised at depth, a silent sentinel far from known shipping lanes, the immense pressure of the Atlantic a constant reminder of their isolation. Hayes ran diagnostics, his mind occasionally flicking back to Sarah's last text message, "Be safe. Come home soon." He'd replied with a standard, reassuring message, masking the unease that had already begun to simmer within him. Then the familiar green landscape of the sonar display flickered with an anomaly. "Sir," Hayes' voice cracked slightly, his body leaning forward. "New contact. Bearing 0905. Range. Indeterminate. The return is fractured." Davies was instantly at his side, his weariness replaced by a focused intensity. The blip on the screen wasn't behaving. Its speed was erratic, leaping from near stationary to an impossible burst of velocity. Its depth readings flickered wildly, defying the predictable gradients of the ocean. "Signature." Hayes ran diagnostics, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Negative, sir. Doesn't match any known vessel. NATO, Russian, nothing. The energy spikes are chaotic, almost biological." He paused, a flicker of something akin to revulsion crossing his face. "It's like trying to get a lock on a living storm." A cold dread coiled in Petty Officer Miller's gut. Usually, the ship's comedian. His smile was absent. "A new type of submersible, sir. Top secret." "Possible," Davies conceded, though the word felt hollow. "But the movement, it's just not right." He felt a prickling sensation on the back of his neck, a primal unease that had nothing to do with the recycled air. They tracked the anomaly for what felt like an eternity, each ping of their own sonar, a nervous cough in the oppressive silence. The contact would materialize as a strong, pulsating echo, then vanish into the background noise, only to reappear moments later in a completely unexpected sector. The tension in the control room thickened, a suffocating blanket woven from fear and the unknown. "Closing, sir," Hayes reported, his voice tight. "Range estimated at 8,000 yards. Now 6, now 4. It's accelerating erratically. Helm, prepare for evasive maneuvers," Davies commanded, his gaze fixed on the unpredictable blip. "As soon as we have a clearer picture of its intentions, we're putting distance between us and that thing." The order for silent running went out, a hushed command that amplified the already stifling atmosphere. The Phorcys' hum seemed to recede, leaving only the faint creak of the hull under the immense pressure and the shallow breaths of the crew. Every man felt the weight of the ocean pressing in, and the weight of the unseen presence drawing closer. "Visual?" Davies asked, his eyes glued to the forward camera feed, a screen offering only an endless vista of black water, punctuated by the occasional dancing speck of bioluminescence. "Negative, sir. Beyond visual range. The water's too dense, even with enhanced imaging." The blip on the sonar pulsed again, a strong, insistent beat. 2,000 yards. 1500. The rhythmic beeping of the proximity alarms began, each insistent tone a hammer blow against their fraying nerves. "It's decelerating rapidly," Hayes said, his confusion evident. "Bearing still 0905, range 1000 yards, stationary." "Helm, 10 degrees starboard," Davies ordered, his voice low but firm. "Slow ahead. Let's try to slip past it." The Phorcys responded sluggishly. "Engines responding, sir. But it feels like we're pushing through treacle," the helm officer reported, a note of bewilderment in his voice. "Speed is lower than expected." "Why the sudden resistance?" Davies frowned, his unease deepening. Were they caught in an unexpected current? Then it began. A low-frequency vibration, not the familiar shudder of the submarine, but something deeper, more resonant, thrummed through the hull. It vibrated in their teeth, resonated in their chests. "Report!" Davies' voice was sharp, cutting through the stunned silence. "No hull breach, Captain," the damage control officer reported instantly, his voice tight with apprehension. "Pressure, integrity, nominal." But the vibration intensified, and a faint dragging sound scraped against the outer hull, just above the control room. It was a prolonged, scraping noise, like rough hide against metal, sending shivers of pure, animalistic fear through the crew. "Sonar. Anything?" Davies demanded. Hayes' face was pale, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Nothing, sir. The contact, it's still stationary." The scraping stopped abruptly, replaced by an unnerving silence. Then, a different sensation, a subtle pressure shift, as if an immense weight had momentarily settled on the hull above them, momentarily slowing their already sluggish progress. A collective gasp went through the control room. "What in God's name?" Miller whispered, his usual bravado completely gone. "Increase speed," Davies commanded, his voice strained. "Get us out of here." The engines whined, pushing against an unseen resistance. The Phorcys moved with agonizing slowness, barely making headway. Then a flicker on the forward camera feed, a fleeting distortion in the inky blackness, something vast and indistinct, a shape that defied geometry, momentarily obscuring the faint bioluminescence. It was gone in a blink, leaving only the oppressive blackness. But the image seared itself into their minds, a glimpse of something impossibly large and alien. The organic signature on the sonar shifted, the erratic energy spikes now pulsing with a slow, deliberate rhythm, like a colossal heartbeat. The vibration returned, stronger this time, and the scraping resumed, closer now, directly above the control room. It sounded less like dragging and more like something probing, testing, and the sluggishness of their movement persisted, as if the water itself had become a tangible barrier. Captain Davies gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles white. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through his years of training. This wasn't a military encounter. This was something else entirely. The proximity alarms began to beep faster, the unseen contact now impossibly close. The scraping intensified, accompanied by a new sound, a series of dull thuds against the hull, as if something immense was testing their defenses, and each impact seemed to momentarily halt their already feeble attempt to escape. Hayes stared at his sonar screen, his face a mask of terror. "Sir, the contact, it's enveloping us. The signal is everywhere and nowhere, and our speed is dropping, Captain. We're barely moving." The lights in the control room flickered violently, plunging them into momentary darkness before sputtering back to life. A wave of intense cold washed through the compartment, despite the internal climate control working at full capacity. A faint, acrid smell, like ozone and something else, Something indescribably foul filled the air. The hull groaned under immense pressure, a sound that went beyond the normal stresses of the deep. Cracks spiderwebbed across a bulkhead panel near the sonar station. Davy's voice, though strained, remained firm. "Damage control. Report. Hull breach. Section 4. Captain. Minor but pressure fluctuations are critical." The scraping above them became a tearing sound, like metal being ripped apart. The low-frequency vibration intensified, resonating deep within their bodies, a primal hum that spoke of immense power and alien biology. The submarine shuddered violently, its forward motion ceasing entirely. Suddenly, the sonar screen went blank. Then a single, enormous pulse of energy erupted from the depths, washing over the Phorcys, silencing the alarms, extinguishing the lights, plunging the submarine into absolute, terrifying darkness. The last sound was a final, agonizing groan of metal, followed by an utter, suffocating silence that was more horrifying than any noise. They had tried to flee, but the abyss, and whatever lurked within it, had held them fast.